All right, folks, we are live streaming This Week in Photo critique. This is critique number 233. The topic, as selected by my intrepid co-host, was night, N-I-G, or yeah, N-I-G-H-T, not K-N-I-G-H-T. So I got a bunch of good selections and submissions for that. So we're going to talk about that, and then also there's a pretty interesting new topic for the next critique that Mr. Miller has brought up. Troy, Troy, how you doing, man? You doing okay?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. We were talking off camera was I'm doing a remodel, so my head is in medicine cabinets and lighting right now. So yeah, so let's see if I can focus on some photographs.
Well, this is good. This will exercise the other side of your brain, right? You can't be all hammering nails and sawing and pouring concrete. You got to have a little bit of mouse clicks and you know
This is true.
web browsing in there from time to time.
This is true. And also I got to point out, like, because of you and my visit to you and hanging out, I have subscribed to YouTube now, so I can now
Oh,
watch Tomorrowland music videos, concerts with no commercials. So I'm giving
it's a
that a
beautiful
try.
thing.
So
It's a beautiful
you
thing.
cost me
Yeah,
money.
some poo poo it. Like, why would you pay for YouTube? But I'm telling you, once you don't have to experience commercials and it's just basically on demand to the sum total of humanity's good and bad
Uh,
parts on every device, it's a couple bucks. So
yeah,
I like it.
no, it
Plus in the
and I hung
car.
out and I hung out with Peter over the weekend, and while we were sitting in his living room playing cards, we were streaming Tomorrowland, the Tomorrowland festival, and there were no commercials. I was like, dude, I always have commercials. He's like, oh, I pay for it. I'm like, okay, that's it. That's it. Frederick and Peter have just ruined me.
It's about. I mean, it's about time, right? You can spend time watching commercials. You're gonna pay for it one way or another, either in your time or with a couple of bucks. I'd rather just get it over with. Here's a couple of bucks. Give me my content. So
Right.
plus, I learned so much from YouTube. I don't mind giving them a couple bucks. There's so much stuff that I've learned. They're like a part of my daily existence. Is like, oh, let me check on YouTube on how to fix this thing or parent or whatever. it's
Well,
all it's
Ladudorina
all
in the
there.
chat makes a really good point. She says that buying subs for YouTube supports all the content creators too. And I hadn't thought about that, but my whole house remodel has been done researching on
Right?
YouTube for ideas. So yeah, yeah, good point.
Yeah. Yeah. No, no, it's true. I mean, it's part of how we do things now. So I don't mind giving them a couple bucks to be able to get the content without commercial interruptions. But let's dive into this week's critique. This one, like I said, was Night, as picked by you,
Yep.
Night. Lots of good selections in there. So if you are part of the
Oh yeah,
community,
we
you
got
know
lots.
where to submit your photos. It's in this photo critiques area, which keep an eye on this because it's going to change shortly because the platform that we use has added finally some photo gallery purpose built features in here. So now it should be a little bit more less hacky when we do these photo critiques. Right now we're doing the critiques as part of the like the what is it? Just an event. So I just create an event in the
Right.
community, and then the threaded messages underneath the event down here is where people submit because the platform allows for rich text in here in the replies. So it's been working fine, but wouldn't it be great to have like a gallery experience? Is what I'm talking about. So there'll be a hybrid of that, and then I'm also putting some plans in place to incorporate our Flickr or the This Week in Photo Flickr group into the community, so we start seeing some cross pollination, as it were. But let's dive in. The first one up is from Dr. Eric Pronsky. He says Metro sign at the Puerto Plaza del Sol subway station taken a few months ago in central Madrid. TWiP neon sign is in the quite large and iconic symbol for, or yeah, is sign in is okay. Is large and iconic for his plaza. Okay, here we go. Here we
Nice.
go. I know. I feel like
Yeah.
I've known you long enough, Troy. I know I could almost parrot what you're gonna say. I
Okay,
audibly.
go ahead. Go
No,
ahead.
no,
And
no, no. I'm
I'll
gonna let
be
you go. Nope.
okay.
Because I'm gonna be wrong.
Um,
Because whatever I pick, you're gonna be like, oh yeah, but I also
no,
this or not that thing. Yeah, So I want to see.
no, I would be honest. I really like this shot. I love the composition. I love the clean sky and the looking up. Having the sign in the background, I think is very nice because it gives a sort of an iconic anchor to a place that I don't know the place, but I know what Metro means, and I think that that's pretty cool. There's two elements of this image that I'm really struggling with, and it's the first one is the light at the bottom that's just dead center on the bottom that's just hovering there. I don't love that at all. And the second is the light over the sign. Um, I wouldn't take the light out over the sign, but maybe crop it out. I just think it's so much stronger with the sign and then the sort of what is that, the fluorescent signs in the background and stuff. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. I really struggle with that. Curious what you think, and if that's what you thought I would say.
Yeah, very close to what I thought you were gonna say. I was gonna definitely this light up here is sucking me out of the image. Like I'm like a moth. Like oh, go into the light. Right? So this light up here, I feel like I would just remove it completely, just content aware, and just get it out of there. And that makes the rest of the shot much stronger because now instead of this bright source drawing us in, we can
Hmm.
pay more attention to the rest of the elements in the scene, and maybe even crop in a little bit from the left to make things a little bit bigger and down from the top, but not too much. So yeah, cropping this light out of there for one, and this photobombing light down here too. Like you said, I would take
Yeah.
him. He's just kind of peeking in there for no reason. So I get those two lights out of there, and then you start reducing the number of elements in the scene and making it stronger. Now I don't have to look at and try to triangulate where all these lights are. There's one light on a pole, which we kind of know that's anchored on the ground. This one is no longer floating, and then this one is removed. And the light that's hitting this metro sign could just be off camera somewhere, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be in the scene.
Right.
And then
Right.
these buildings, this Pepe over here, like I'd want to crop in a little bit. If these are important to this area, I feel like you might want to lose a little bit of that building and a little bit on the right side and the top to bring this text up a little bit in size and importance in the overall scheme
Yeah.
of pixel usage here. But those are my comments. So basically the same as yours, but more long-winded.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. The only reason I didn't say clone out the light over the sign was because of the reflection. And if you're going to show this to somebody who knows the area, they might expect to see it. So I don't think it's offensive to leave the light mount in there because it's so dark anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But either way, it just depends on whether you're going to go like super artistic or you want to keep it sort of like, honest to the space. But what a what a great shot. It's so simple and clean, and I love the color grading. I love the muted colors. It feels nice.
Yeah, yeah. It is really cool. Yeah, and this is one, we always go back to this. Like, should it be black and white? No, I think you need the color in this one for sure, especially in this neon sign back here. And then, sure, everyone knows what these red, white, and blue colors in the metro are, but I don't know. I think it adds to it. I think I like color in this one, but muted
Yep.
with this treatment, like it is. I think it's really nice.
Agreed.
So very good, Dr. Pronsky. Thank you, sir.
Bravo,
All right, up
bravo.
next is Nora Zanotinus. Into the Dark, Nora says. Ah, all right. What say you?
It's super cool. I love the fact that the moon is in there. Normally if you've listened to this enough times, you know that I'm like a cropaholic and I like to crop everything. And with this one, I'm really enjoying the little bit of stars and the moon that's in there. I think for me, there's only like two things that I would do to this image. One, I would try to burn down the highlight on the path from that light. Like I wouldn't get rid of it because it's a path light, so I think it's great, but I would burn that down. But I would add some color grading to this. like I would lean into like really warm tones or maybe even really cool tones, but I'm more of a warm tone kind of guy. So I would lean into like some really warm tones. And I think that would give it a better comfortable vibe, right? Like a softer light vibe. So, but I think it's great. I think it's a great night shot.
Yeah, yeah. I agree with the color treatment on there and that foreground light down here. That's kind of with no apparent reason for it to be that light, right? So if there was something that was in the scene that made that light's brightness make sense to have it there, then yeah. But if it's not doing anything for us, I'd probably want to take that out of there, or dim it down, as it were, using whatever tool you have to do that. So that I love the leading line of this path going back here. I get a little lost in this star field because there's so much dark in here. I feel like I'm going out into the abyss, right? Like what I don't know what to do about that. Like I'm curious what you astrophotographers think. Like would it have been better, not that it would have been impossible depending on where the Milky Way was, but to have like some sort of celestial or more stars in here. I don't know. I don't know. You know what I'm saying, Troy? I feel like
Yeah.
I'm there's a lot of interest in the bottom and I'm being led somewhere and then I'm off in kind of dreamland. So there was that. And then is this Nora down here? Is this Nora's shadow? Can you see this?
Could be.
I feel like that's Nora holding the camera up right there above her head. So Nora snuck a little
Oh, it
self
could
portrait in
be.
there. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
So Nora, you'll
Yeah,
have to
good
let us know.
catch.
Is that you down there? And if so, it's not. It doesn't bother me if that is. I actually like it as a little Easter egg. So it's kind of cool in there. But just if you weren't aware as the artist that created this, Nora, then and you weren't cognizant of the fact that you caught your shadow in there and it wasn't supposed to be in there, easy enough to take out, right? And on that, Troy, like if this shot is perfect the way it is, and it's your shot, and you're like, you know what, this is great, but crap, I can't crop anymore off the bottom, and I need to get rid of that shadow. I didn't know that was in there. How would you get rid of that? Like, can Capture One, like, could you target that shadow and raise its levels somehow to match the surrounding boardwalk, or are you just asking for a world of hurt?
Man, you're asking for a world of hurt. What I would do is I would burn down the lower half of the image around the shadow, right? Like I would just
Mm,
burn it down, and what that would do is decrease the difference between, say, the posts left and right, the floor and the ground, or the floor path, and then the shadow itself. So I would burn all that down. I mean, I would like to see it burn down anyway because it creates more of a leading line into it. But that's what I would do. Just reduce the emphasis on it.
yeah. Yeah. And what do you think about my comments about the kind of adding more? I want to see more stars or celestial bodies or something in the sky, or is it better minimalist like this?
I would definitely add more. I would assume that if this was shot, raw, like if this was shot on a good camera, not just an iPhone, but I would assume that there's probably more stars there. We're just not seeing them, in the stream or being compressed over the web and stuff like that. So, but yeah, little distant stars add depth and stuff. And if there's not, I'm okay with this. I think it's great.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure some astrophotographer could tell you where it is on the planet this is just by by the placement of the stars.
Oh yeah, or anybody could with the right app, right? So
Probably.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. This is really cool. Very cool. All right, Nora. Thank you. All right. And up next is Paolo Bassetti. Paolo says, did not have time for a rush one. I tried with this one, dated March of 2022. All right. Yeah, yeah, this is cool. I like this one. What do you think?
Wow. Right away, um, I I just love the two tone thing that's happening, and I'm gonna say that because this is Palos, I feel really comfortable saying that he didn't desaturate the sign on the
Right.
right? Like he generally doesn't do that. So that to me makes it even more interesting, and I think that that's what's fun about also knowing the artist. Like if you follow artists and you know their style, when you see a shot come up that makes you think like, oh, did they do something they would normally do? And you're like, nah, he just found a really cool scene. So that means I like it even more. It's very, very timeless. I think that it's really wonderful. My only suggestion would be some burning, like burn the left quadrant down with the left side of that building, the lower left corner, and then even the signage that's lit. I would probably bring that down a little bit, not too much because it's just a little bit hot for me. I'm not seeing any detail where the light is hitting the wall, and I'm a big fan of maintaining detail in the highlights and sacrificing shadows and letting the shadows go down, because shadows feel natural, but blown highlights do not feel natural.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, it's very true.
yeah, and then the only other thing is like this is one of those kind of images that you'll be able to look at no matter where you are in history and know roughly what the time era is because of the mobile device in his hand. Right? We're always going to be able to go, oh, that looks like an iPhone.
Uh-huh.
You know?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's
We got
kind of cool.
electricity, and he's vaping, right? Yeah, I like it. So my thoughts on this one are, I feel like this is two shots. Like the shot that I feel like I want to see crops about right here. Like this signage and this table and all this high
Hmm.
frequency stuff. And like you said, the contrast of these lights on this wall, it's pulling me over here. It feels like almost two separate shots. Like if there was a person sitting at this table, that'd be a separate shot completely than this shot off to the left. So to balance that for me and to make our subject in this alleyway that he's sitting in, like I feel like he's like a cook or somebody or a waiter in a restaurant. He's on a break or something, right? So I'd want the story to be about him. I'd crop it down about right here because I like you said, I like the contrast of the warm and cool. So I'd crop this down about right here to keep a little bit of that interest, and that instantly brings all the attention down into this alley. Even this side over here becomes
Right.
supportive. We want to keep some of this because we want to know that he's in an alley, right? So this architectural feature gives us the knowledge that okay, he's embedded in this alley a little bit. So I'd want to do that. Then I'd maybe bring the lighting down back behind him a little bit and bring it up on him just a hair. If you don't want to go for full on silhouette, I'd bring him up a little bit just to sell the story of like not spotlight him, but just bring him up just a little bit so that
Hmm.
he is more dominant or more not over dominant than the lights, but more dominant than he is. And the lights are pushed down a little bit, so they're a little bit dimmer. So push one down, bring another one up a little bit. Then you can see all that alley, all what's going on in there. And then the last thing is this trash can here. I'm on the fence about that. I don't know if I like the trash can here. Like, does it add to my story or is it taking away? Like you said, like timeless wise, we know that this is a modern shot, so because he's on an iPhone and probably vaping down there. But this trash can, does it add to it, or would it be stronger if it was just more alleyway, kind of making it more of a symmetrical feel back here, where he's offsetting on this side and then there's nothing on this side? But I don't know. You have to play with it, and that'd be relatively easy to get out these days, right, Troy? I mean, in Photoshop, you just draw a lasso around it and content aware it out, right? And
Right.
it'll
Right.
fill in the right bricks and shadows and everything. It'll just take that thing out of
Oh,
there.
I know.
So
And
yeah, so
to be fair, we know Paolo doesn't do that.
no,
So,
of course he doesn't. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that's science fiction. I'm just saying, if these are my pixels and I was gonna edit it and
Oh
I
yeah,
had that
yeah.
option to, yeah, I'd go to town like that. But yeah, for the audience, Paulo basically shoots like everything slide film. So this is
Right.
which is great. That's a great restraint to give yourselves, and it just can only make your appreciation and understanding of composition and lighting that much better. And people that know you shoot like that appreciate your, especially photographers, of course, will appreciate your work even more because you know what pain you went through in order to get that shot, and you didn't just
Right.
grab something on the fly and fix it in post. So
Right.
yeah, so
Unlike
we
you
get
and
it.
I,
We get it, Paolo. Unlike what?
unlike you and I, where if anybody looks at our images, they'd be like, I wonder how much of that was in camera and how much of that,
It's
what was
it's
there
just the
before?
thing. It's just the
I
thing,
know.
right? But I would argue that only other content creators or photographers would think that, right? Someone
Oh
looking
yeah,
at the
I think
image
so.
and understanding the story that you're trying to tell with those pixels is not going to dive into how it was made and
No.
that shadow is not perfect or whatever. So they're all pixels. You can either choose to punish them or you can choose to respect them and let them do their thing as captured. I don't know. It's up to you.
I agree.
There's no right or wrong.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. So good shot, Paolo. So did you see what I was talking about in terms of like doing more of a square crop on this and getting rid of this stuff over on the side here? Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's so many neat things to do with this image. I really like it. Yeah, it's really cool. I wish I could see this kind of stuff more. Even like, when you and I went walking around with Tim Ingle, we walked around, Tracy a little bit. I kept thinking to myself, like, what would Paolo see here? Or what would Craig Stampley see here? Or what would, it's like, if you're not used to seeing this stuff, you just walk past it, So there's art in it. But yeah, it's really cool. Really good image.
Yeah, it's interesting because we did a photo walk in downtown, quote, downtown Tracy here, a small town, small California town. So we're walking around, and I remember making a comment that, I felt apologetic for my town because it's like, there's not much here, guys, it's just whatever. But I'm looking at it through worn, jaded eyes, and you guys are like, "Oh, look at that! There's so much stuff here. Look at this." You're like jumping in puddles, and Tim's taking pictures of mannequins in store windows and all that. I'm like, how come I didn't see that?
Yeah.
So yeah, sometimes it just takes a state change, a change of place to get those creative juices flowing.
Yeah. Yep. Fair enough. Yep.
All right. So up next is Craig. Speaking of Craig Stampley, Felons Brewery. All right. Look at this. All right. What do you think?
It's very interesting. I love the neon. I love that glow and then the cool tones behind it. I love everything that's going on in that top left corner. I just feel like we have too much negative space elsewhere. And I wouldn't crop it really tight. I might take like 20 or 30% of the negative space on the right and the bottom off, just up to where the light just starts to fall off on the bottom on that pole. I just feel like beyond that, it's not really adding anything. But other than that, what a cool shot. What a cool shot. And I like the space to the right and below because it gives me a sense that it's up high and that there's like an alley or space to the right. And we have detail in the shadows, so that's really wonderful as well. So I just think it's too much.
Yeah, I like this one, and I think the only thing that I would do would be crop it in just a little bit. I like the placement of the neon sign in the kind of upper left intersection of thirds, so I want to keep that. But I feel like maybe cropping in from the left just enough to get rid of this little inverted exclamation point highlight right there. So maybe crop in just a little bit to get rid of that, and then a little, like you're saying, a little bit off the bottom, but still maintaining, and maybe some from the left too. Just to keep this in the upper left of the image, but get rid of some of these pixels without. I know what he's trying to do here because you want to see that cool background with the warm foreground, the juxtaposition there. So I get that. So I don't want to lose too much of that, but I want us to focus in a little bit more on our the neon sign there at Felons.
Yep, exactly.
Very cool. Felons, what a bar. Makes sense in Australia though, right? Penal colony. Just saying.
You're funny. You're very funny.
History. You know your history. All right. Thomas is next. Thomas says Golden Gate National Recreation Area has candlelit tours of Fort Point during the winter season. Look at that. See, that's cool. That is really cool.
Yeah, that's really fun. I love the soft light and then the bricks, the leading lines of the bricks that lead us. This is one of those images that it's very similar to like Craig's in that I think we just have so much negative space off to the right that's not adding anything. So a balancing crop, really is just a little bit off the right, a little bit off the left, maybe a little off the top. And make that bad boy vertical because that lantern is not. Nope, it's definitely not vertical.
I would make.
I just
leaning
rotate
to the left. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. All that. I agree. Yeah, I was gonna say that too. Um, my retort is the same on this one. Like the on the right side, I'd want to punch in a little bit. I guess that's the bottom line. Because looking at this, my brain wants to see more of the detail in that lamp because it looks intricate, but we're so far
Sure.
away. And I know we're so far away because the artist wanted to get the light pattern on the wall in the shot. So it's kind of a toss up between the two. Or compositionally, how do you do that? You get in close and kind of shoot from a low angle to show the spread while showing the detail on the lamp, or do you just punch in at this from this perspective? In either case, I think losing a lot of the dead space on the right side would do this good. Maybe even to maybe about here even.
Yeah.
Just kind of
Yeah.
losing all that, and then maybe a little bit off the left, just so that we're like, all this isn't really helping us. I know the story is, look at this cool lamp, it's in this place, and casting these lights on the wall. The rest of this that is letting us know that we're in a dark place enough, that's dark enough to let this point light source project. You could get that story across with fewer pixels, I think, and then this would be
True.
more detailed, and this projection would be more grand, I think. Otherwise, we're just kind of wasting our space over on the left and the right.
Yeah, I completely agree. And something to take into consideration when you when you come up on subject matter like this. This looks like, you knelt down in front of it and then you photographed it. But you're still photographing it from an adult eye perspective, right? Even if you knelt down. Think about what would a lizard see, or what would a cat see, or what would a child see, and put the camera on the ground and shoot up into the object, across the ground. Like, grab a different perspective. So whatever perspective that you're just about to shoot, think like, oh no, I've got to shoot something completely different than where I'm at, and you'll find some really neat shots.
Yeah, and that's the tips I give at photo walks when we leave photo walks, is the just standing up and bringing your camera up to at eye level, and relying on whatever optics you have available, or make a mental note that I'm going to crop this later or do some later. That's one way, but like you said, Troy, oftentimes you can get a spectacularly different photo of something that everybody else is photographing just by changing your perspective and doing an eyes view type shot, like for this one, a bug or a rat's eye or a cockroach's eye view of this thing. What would that look like? So you got to get that camera into a position that other people just don't want to stretch their back muscles to do, right? Because it's easier just to hold up the camera in front of you like this and snap a shot and move on. But to crouch down and get this, get the angle, make sure your lines are straight and all that, that's more effort, which means fewer people will do it, which means your shot will have that much more chance of standing out. So change your perspective.
Right. If it's an easy angle, find another one. Shoot that one for sure, right? But then find another one. Think about how you could take this shot different from what anybody else would take. And whether it's, photographing the Snake River, or, the Grand Tetons, or whatever it is. Like, if you're just going to stand there and bring the camera up to your eye, you have to, trigger your brain and go like, okay, this is what everybody does. I need to find a different angle. What's the different angle? And that's hard. That's the hard thing. But yeah.
Yep, that's right. Yeah, difference is key. And that's life advice too, right, Troy? Take the path less traveled and all that cliche type stuff. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I guess
it works in the macro too.
I guess you have to be careful though, because if everybody's eating fruit off that tree and they're not dying, I wouldn't eat the other tree. I would follow the group there. But when it comes to photography,
it's like, where would we be if those early humans were like, you know what? All those animals are drinking out of that clear water. I'm going to this brown water over here. I'm going to drink that and survive. Yeah, I'm different. I'm a rebel.
That's why there's not a lot of rebels.
Like, I don't care about all those bones around the water. Those bones mean nothing. I'm going to drink it. You can't tell me what to do.
And how we descend so quickly.
I know, so quickly. All
It's
right,
awesome.
we got one in here from you, Mr. Miller. The old man over mono. Yeah, I think I remember you doing this. Yeah. Tell us,
Yeah.
regale us in how this image
Ah,
was created. It almost
the
looks 3D,
moon.
by the way. Looking at this shot,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's my display, but those clouds, the way that you've done the contrast and everything, they literally look like they're hovering above the page to me. It's so well done. Beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. No, it was it was equally one of my most satisfying shoots and one of my most frustrating shoots because when I was there, I hated it so much because the light wasn't right. It was the moon didn't come up when I prepared for it. I had to run around and find my spot, and I shot all this in infrared. And then later, when I went back and looked at the shots, like many months later, I went, "Wow, these are really good." And it was the disconnect between what I had prepared for and what I had hoped to see and what was actually given to me. So good lesson there.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so this is shot at Mono Lake. If you're familiar with Mono Lake, it's on the far right hand end. The big tufa towers are to your left, out in the water, and I just look to the right where the moon comes up, and the sun is just barely striking those clouds. So the infrared picked up that, and of course the moon is infrared, so made a nice silhouette. Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, really, really cool. Yeah, and who is it? Who is in the chat? Someone said that you were channeling your inner Ansel. Was that Labuda? Yeah. Yeah, this is really cool. This is really, did you print this or did you like where? What was the life of this photo? Did you just work on it and then now it lives in your Capture One
uh,
library?
this is now the most people have ever seen this photo. I've never printed it. But actually, this comes out of a small collection of images that I have. That once we finish the remodel on the house, we're going to put images up, and this is one of the images that Margie and I like the most. So
Very cool. Yeah, Jim
yeah.
Peters in the chat says it needs to be printed. Like, are you gonna print it just big and frame it, or print it on metal or something and hang it, or are you gonna do like a multi-segmented quad pick or triptych or something out of it?
It'll be metal and
Mm-hmm.
frameless, of course,
Mm-hmm.
and there will
Mm-hmm.
be no sloppy border or anything on it. So just so you know, but yeah, it'll probably be. I'm looking at like a 60-inch metal print of this to hang
Mm.
in one of the rooms. Yeah, yeah.
And just for gits and shiggles, where do you get your prints made like that? Like, who do you trust?
There is a small lab in Temecula called Metalography,
Hmm.
and I think the guy that runs it, his name is Russ. It's also where Peter gets all of his stuff printed for the festival when he goes to the
Mm-hmm.
festival and gets all of his stuff printed. And they just do an amazing job. I mean, their attention to detail is wonderful, and it's like one dude in a giant shop printing these prints and detailing them out, and we just love them. They just do a great
That's
job.
cool.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Yeah.
Good. Good.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's a nice local lab. As much as I love Miller's and some of my other labs, like Miller doesn't print big odd sizes where metallography will print. I think they can print up to 6 feet. It's all
Hmm.
based on how big the material is.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Wow. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I'd love to
yeah, it's good stuff.
chat with them about their process because I'm curious. Very cool.
Yep.
All right. Thank you for that shot, Mr. Miller. Up next, speaking of Peter Levshin, Peter says moonshine. Nice.
Yeah, this is Mona Lake. Different trip.
Hmm.
But this is Mona Lake. I remember I was there with Peter and Brad Toms and stuff. We were doing some night photography. Um, love this shot so much. The warm tones against the cool tones with the stars and a little bit of the lights reflecting across the water from the little distant. I don't know what's over there, but the highway is over that way. So
Hmm.
definitely one of my favorite shots that I've seen of Peter's. And
Yeah.
you know, I struggle with the crop because
Mm.
I love the sky, but I want less sky. The horizon's right in the middle, roughly. So I'm really struggling with that. I don't know. I don't know what to do.
I
I'll leave it
I
up to you.
don't I yeah, I don't mind the fact some I know the part of the rule of thumb is never split your photo in half with a horizon or something like that. That's a suggestion of composition. In this case, I don't mind it. I like the symmetry of the blue, the warm and the cold, kind of equally split in between with the what is that stuff made? Is that limestone? Is a limestone
I don't know if it's
rock?
limestone exactly, but what it is, it's that was formed underwater, and so
Oh, okay.
mineral
Yeah.
deposits rise from underneath the lake bed, and as they come up, they deposit. So I don't know physically what it is.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I didn't know that that area was underwater. That makes sense. So yeah, so that's what I think. So I like the yin yang ish of the shot with the blue at the top and the warm tones at the bottom with this the deposits kind of breaking the line in between. I even like the amount of stars that we have. Like it's not so many stars that it's overwhelming you and you're like, oh, the artist wants me to look at the sky, look at the stars, and everything else is secondary. I know that that sky is secondary, and I know my hero is the structure in the middle. I even like how it was lit. So that's and I'm not sure how it was. It looks like maybe headlights off to the side, or was it a flashlight or something? But
No, it's a full
yeah,
moon.
yeah. Is it oh,
No,
really?
it's
That's what's lighting the rock? Is
yeah,
a full moon?
yeah.
Oh wow,
It
wow.
was
So there's a
it
long
was
exposure.
so it was so bright. It's handheld. I mean, he probably was on a
Oh,
tripod, but it was handheld. It was not very long. It was so bright. If you've ever been out to Mono, it was so bright that we were walking around with no headlights, no lights whatsoever. You could clearly see where you were going. It was intense. It was amazingly bright. Yeah. And
yeah.
and this particular shot is interesting because I know Peter just pulled it out of the archives because I know it was a few years ago. And just recently, because of the new Capture One AI object selection foreground background, he was able to really bring this image to life. Where before it was kind of muted, you didn't have a lot of the color saturation in the sky. It was hard to select that properly. And so I remember him telling me because we were just hanging out how much he liked editing this image because of the new Capture One stuff. So the software is making a difference on older images, whether you're using
Yeah.
Lightroom or Capture One. It's just
It's that
don't
AI
give up on
masking
those.
is it's a game changer, right? It's just to be able to say,
Yep.
yeah, okay, I want the foreground to be a little bit brighter. Boom. Yeah, this midground I want it to be like
Hmm.
this. Oh, the star, that it's so interesting how you put the camera on us for a second. It's so interesting how that bit changes you in your perception of the shot that you're making. Because Peter, like you said, Peter went back in his archives and re-edited this with his newfound superpowers, right? Which is why it's important to shoot in RAW, so you can go back and do that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Um, but sort of looking at it from the perspective of now we have these tools. You remember back in the darkroom days, right? To do something as precise as take a shot like this and get around those rocks with no haloing, or you could probably do it given enough skill, talent, and time,
No. Yeah.
but it would never look like this, especially if you're printing color. But now, boom, even on your
No.
phone, like these apps on the phone even have these AI, like the Lightroom mobile has AI masking on the phone. That's
Yep.
not bad, right? So it's crazy the superpowers we have. Like photography today is different than photography when you and I were learning how to shoot, because you had to, like, okay, I'm going to shoot like this so that later maybe I can burn that sky in a little bit, or this or that. Now we have
Yeah.
like super resolution and glass that's just amazing, and cameras that can just find an eye and stay on it, and then you could bring
Yep.
it into post and do all this magic stuff with Capture One or Lightroom or whatever tool you're using, and it's just, yeah, it's an embarrassment of riches. So well done,
It
Peter.
is. And what it really highlights for me is not any one particular software, but what it tells me is that my library of images that I had previously thought were insignificant, I now can go back and look at them, and now I can bring them back to life. That's
Yeah.
pretty amazing, right? Like that's pretty
Hmm.
significant. I just maybe I doubled or tripled the amount of keepers from that trip that I took to Mammoth in 2016. Like
Yeah.
I got to go back and edit them, right? So I don't know.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, and not even considering Topaz and tools like that
Oh,
let you
right,
increase
right.
resolution, because maybe you were shooting, a micro four thirds back in the day, and you really want to make a poster, but now you could increase the resolution or sharpness. Topaz again, right? You could rescue images that were just off of being tack sharp. Now you can bring them back, blow them up, and do all kinds of cool stuff with them. Bring them into Capture One or Lightroom, use their masking tools, and just start reworking the image in ways that was basically science fiction when you capture the image. So it's crazy. It's crazy what we can do. So yeah. So this shot is really cool. The only thing I was gonna say on this shot was, and I know we talk about this a lot, and it's completely subjective, but just the non-equal borders on the shot. I guess it's a creative decision, but just aesthetically and personal taste-wise, I just want to see equidistant borders all around. I don't know why. I just want to see borders that are the same all the way around the image. So, and I don't want to concentrate. Like, this is fine. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful shot. It holds its own. But I don't want to have a conversation even for a microsecond in my head about the border. Like, I just want the border to support the image, subconsciously. Like, even if it's a white border or if it's, I just want the border to support the main character, not be part of the story. I don't know. I'm weird. I don't know.
Well, you made the comment about, like, when we talk about, like, images that I think that only, like, advanced photographers are going to be able to be critical and see the things that we see, right?
Yeah.
The average viewer is not going to see those things. But I think the same thing applies for, like, a border like this, because I mean, the essence of the way that the reason the borders are like that is to give you a sense of expanse left and right. And I think the average viewer that doesn't know better will get that essence from a display like this. But we know better, and so things bother us, right? Like, we know better. It's it's like hearing somebody play the wrong chord, and you're like, oh, that was bad, but nobody else knows.
Yeah. Like I said, like, even, you remember darkroom days, right? We had to, like, if you wanted to put borders on an 8x10 print, you had to use an easel that had a border overlay on it, right? So that you could not expose the edges of the print and make them white, or do vice versa. So I think maybe that's kind of where my feeling about borders came from, because it's like, I even remember in the darkroom, I'm like, this paper is not cheap. Like, why am I, like, not using the whole paper to print this on? But I get it, compositional element, all that, yada, yada, yada. But still, it's like, oh, I don't know. Feels like wasted space. Put something in there.
Well, yep.
But cool, good stuff. Peter Levshin, thank you for sharing that. Let me reload real quick to see if we missed anyone.
Oh yeah,
good to see how slow my internet connection is today.
Somebody always sneaks in at the end, don't they?
Yep. Look at that, Jim Peters, coming in there under the rope. All right. Wait, did he have a? There we go. Okay, so Jim says, throughout Panama City at Christmas time, there were wonderful lights in all the public areas. They usually spend about $12 million on fireworks, on a fireworks show for New Year's Eve. $12 million for like 30 minutes. The budget could not support it this year, so they spent $6 million on lights.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
$6 million. Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Steve Austin would be proud.
Yeah.
$6 Million Man, if you don't know the reference.
Yeah, no, I got it.
For the youngins in the crowd that don't know who $6 Million Man was. Who, by today's standards, seems really, really inexpensive, right?
It does. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, $6 Million Man seemed insane at the time. Like, millions? How many is that?
Exactly. Six of them? Yeah, that'd be the $60 billion man, or the $6 trillion man these days. But what do you think?
I really enjoy the shot. I love the color harmony. I love the fact that, we have that, what is it, like a nativity scene or something, like that's the main focus. But here's where I'm struggling with it. First of all, the center focus, the nativity scene, I'll call it, because I don't know exactly what it is, but it looks like that, is tilted clockwise. And so that's kind of the hero. And I think that even though it was shot maybe askew, and so it gives it that sense, we still need to keep that guy vertical. Also, this kind of harkens back to the advice that we talked about earlier, where, if it's something that everybody else can take, like, what's the other angle? And for me, there's a lot of stuff in this shot that I don't think is lending itself to a better image. Meaning, you've got some shadowy people on the right, you've got a lot of negative dark space in the top. What I would have loved to have seen was getting, close to the ground, shooting up into the lights on the left, maybe letting them fall out of focus a little bit. Something like that, a little bit different perspective to help us narrow in on our subject as opposed to just the overall scene.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Yeah, when I look at the shot versus when I look at the shot and read the caption, I get two different feelings. So reading the caption, I realize, wow, this is what $6 million in lights looks like, right? And I don't get the feeling from the shot that this is $6 million in light. So I think a way I'd want to lean into that as the photographer or as an artist, to showing the grandeur of all these lights. And maybe the only way to do that, because I'm sure this is one angle and one frame, right? So I'm sure there was much more to it than this, but I'd want to see that somehow. And maybe one way to do that is with motion, right? All of our photos don't necessarily have to be static like this. Maybe this was an opportunity to do some, like we were talking about before, some varying angles, some perspective angles, some detail angles, some distorted angles, but then also roll some video as well to, lock your camera down on a tripod and just roll some video to show the motion of these lights and the grandeur of the scene. So, because, in the end, we don't necessarily always have to just be still photographers. Like, most of our work, if not all of our work, is going to be viewed on a device which is capable of multimedia, right? So if it calls for it to tell the story better, use other mediums, right? Or mediums in order to communicate the feeling that you're trying to get the user to feel. In this case, the grandeur of $6 million worth of lighting. What does that look like, and what does that feel like? So I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I agree. And I, to be fair to anybody that creates any images, I mean, sometimes, we walk into a scene and we're overwhelmed by how spectacular it is, or whatever like physical experience that we're having when we're there. And to photograph it sometimes doesn't translate. So we have to kind of like separate ourselves from the experience and say, okay, how can I show this, or a piece of it, or something, as opposed to, you can't capture the way you feel, or the way the ocean smells, or how cold it is, or how good dinner just was, or whatever. Mm-hmm. So what you're talking about are techniques that you can use to help get us excited and get us into the moment that you're experiencing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and from a photojournalism perspective, maybe it's not always possible to capture and tell that story in a single frame. Maybe you need to do that long, medium, and close-up detail shot, just to along with the caption to tell the grandeur of the story. You might be trying to,
right,
bite off more than you could chew to try to tell something as grand as $6 million in a single shot. So.
Yeah, still a cool shot, by the way, Jim. We love the shot. Yeah, we still love the shot, Jim. You've inspired some thoughts.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's what this is all about. It's like, what can we do differently? It's not necessarily better in all cases, but just like differently. How do you see a scene differently through others' eyes and perceive it? It's like when you're writing a letter and you write "the" 2 times and you've proofread that letter 30 times and never saw the that you wrote in there until somebody else proofreads it for you, and you're like, oh, why ain't got that, right? Same thing with photography. Most of the time, a lot of times, we don't see what we don't see, or so that's what these critiques are about.
Yep, absolutely.
So what are you thinking for our next critique, which is coming up? What are we on? We're on the 22nd of January, 2024. So this next one will be February 5th, 2024. You believe that?
Should we pick a winner first?
Oh, yeah, duh. I forgot about the winner. Yes. So ahead of myself. They're all winners in my book, Troy.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
You love all your children equally.
I love all my kids equally. What do you think? I know you're gonna say you're probably thinking Peters. Um,
I am.
I would like I like yours a lot for sure, and I like Paolo's cropped like that. Nora's is cool. Yeah, like I said, all my kids. I think yeah. For me, if you're still settled on this one, I think Peters is my favorite too.
Yeah, I love Peters a lot, and when it gets to this level, this is how my brain works. For those of you that just wonder like how Troy picks an image, it's all down to like what's my favorite. Then I start looking at like technically what would I change or what would I tweak or what would I fix or how would I do this differently, and then I start thinking like, well, I love this one, but I would tweak that. I love this one, but I would tweak that, and then I get to Peters, and I'm like, I would tweak way less.
Yeah.
So okay, less tweaks. That's barely a fine line, but you know
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Yeah, yeah. It's as good a metric as any. All right, Peter Levshin, congratulations. You are this week's favorite pick. Love it. Really cool shot. I'm
Everybody
curious what he
goes
shot
crazy.
this with. Were you there when he did this?
Yeah, of course.
What did he shoot it with? Was it that Sony?
Yeah, I don't know which Sony it was. He's got several, but probably like his 4 is 3 or something.
Yeah, yeah. Very nice. Yeah, Eric.
Yep.
Eric says great colors in this image. Yeah, I agree. It's that balance, right? I mean, it's we talked in our what do we call it in our member mixer at some point last year. We were talking about the teal and the green, or the
Yep.
overused cinematic blue and orange kind of feel. But it's something about that combination that is pleasing to us, right? Like, as evident by
Yep.
Peter's image. There's something about
Yep.
that color combination that works. So
Yep. It's amazing. And if you're ever out like in the desert, Joshua Tree, open air space, Mona Lake, and it's a full moon, and you have the option to grab yourself like a 50 millimeter 24 1.4 1.2 or anything fast. I mean, you can literally walk around at like 4,000 ISO and take hand shots, handheld
wow.
shots.
Yeah.
What's happening
Another
to our
thing.
video, Frederick? What the
What's
heck?
wrong with the video? What's it doing?
Oh, it's all crunchy on my side.
Oh, that's you, my friend.
Uh, I don't know. I don't know. The internet says we're
I don't know,
done. We
maybe.
come to the
I
end.
don't
I
know.
don't.
Who knows? It's Monday, so it's time for things to go wrong. Well, before we lose the feed, what's our critique topic for February 5th?
Yes. And to quote La Duderina, don't forget that like button, folks. That's nice,
Yes. Let's bring that up.
nice drop
Perfect.
there, La Duderina.
Thank you.
Um, so
Thank you.
so the next topic is concrete and or steel. Concrete and or steel. So
Is
think
that
about
two
that.
E's or EA? Steel or steel?
Two E's.
Two
Two
E's.
E's.
Steel the metal. Now, TWiP will not
Yeah.
be bailing you out if
Yeah.
you decide to steal something.
Because I
Yeah.
was thinking like urban decay or industrial and all that kind of stuff. I was thinking like that. Then I thought, well, the fun elements of those two topics or those two genres is really kind of the concrete, the texture of the concrete, and then steel, structural shapes, bridges, things like that. Um, so there's a lot that you could do in there.
Yeah. Yeah. Steel.
Oh, look at that,
Easy.
Peter's in the chat.
Peter Levshin's in the chat. Oh, wait. We've got to. This is historic. Let's bring up Peter's comment into the show while he's in the chat. Look at that. All right, Peter. There you go. So Peter says shot with a 10 millimeter lens on the Sony AR7 III. Okay. Wow. So you
Is
are
that the
right up on this.
Voigtlander? I think that's his Voigtlander. Yeah,
Voigtlander.
nice stuff.
All right.
Yeah, so
well, cool.
concrete and or steel.
Concrete and or steel for our February 5th photo critique. So cool. We'll see that. And I think by then we'll have our little switcheroo done in Circle. So we'll be able to submit those into that space versus doing it the old way. So nothing changes from a submitter standpoint. Click on the link and submit an image, right? That's basically how you do that. If you are a TWiP member, if you want to become a TWiP member because you're not and you're missing out on all the fun, join.thisweekinphoto.com. And also, like Ladunarita says, please be sure to like and subscribe to these here videos so that we can leave burnt offerings at the altar of the algorithm and get some we leave the burning embers as we back away slowly, not making eye contact with the algorithm. So,
Oh my gosh. Oh my
yeah,
gosh. You're so funny.
yeah, that's how I live. All right, cool. All right, we'll leave it right there. Troy Miller, thank you, my friend, for doing this.
Yeah, of course.
Very cool. And yeah, we'll chat this week, and we will. You got any announcements or anything you want to make before we end this?
Well, I'm gonna point out, like, I'm reading this book, which is, from the community. Kai's wife wrote this, and so it's been a good read. So my advice is, be good to yourself so that you can be good to others. That's my advice.
Nice. Very good. I like it. Be good to yourself so you can be good to others. Make sure that your seatbelt is attached before you assist others. is the key. Good to know anyone
right.
if you're not healthy. All right, cool. We'll leave it right there. Thank you, Troy Miller. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on this here live stream, and to anybody who's watching the replay. Yeah, come hang out in the community. Join us. And if you are in the community, we will see you on Friday for our weekly member mixer. And if you choose to participate, we'll see your image on February 5th for yet another photo critique live stream. Cool.
You got it.
All right, my friend. See you later. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you guys next time.